Good morning, everyone. So today I will discuss the lesson 1, which is all about the introduction to statistics. So the objectives for this lesson is that the students are expected to define and explain the concepts of statistics, population, sample, data, and variable. Identify and differentiate the types of data and determine the areas of statistics. Differentiate the scales of measurement and to realize and appreciate how important statistics in the real world, especially in the field of business. Now, first, we will define what is statistics. So in a formal definition, as seen on your screen, statistics is a branch of science that deals with the development of methods for a more effective way of collecting, organizing, presenting, and analyzing data. So, in general, it is a field of knowledge that enables an investigator to derive and evaluate conclusions about a population from sample data. So it allows us to make generalizations about a large group based on what we find in a smaller group. So a simple or a more summarized definition of statistics. So earlier, di ba, it was mentioned nga it is the collecting of data, organizing of data, presenting of data, and analyzing of data. So generally, ang data ang concern sa statistics. Now, kung anong kailangan man i-collect, i-organize, i-present, to i-analyze si data. So, the reason is that, kani, in order to make conclusions, generalizations about a large group based on the smaller group. So, nga naman mo based sa smaller group para i-generalize ang large group. With our capabilities, especially if dili kayo ta dako lugar nga organization or dako nga kanang researcher kibali, maglisod ta nga istadihan ang isa ka dako kaayo nga area, or for example, kung gusto ka makabalo sa opinion or kanang how was living with this pandemic affects the mental health of the individuals here in Malaybalay. Sa Malaybalay alone, nga ikaw ra isa ang researcher, dili nimo na kaya i-collect nga data. So, the most logical thing to do is that mag-select lang kag pwede nga particular barangay or mag-select ka og some individuals in each barangay. So, nga na, depende na siya sa imuhang strategy. Okay. So, what is business statistics? Now, focusing on the business matter, so it is the area of statistics which is applied in the business setting. So, it can be used for quality assurance, financial analysis, production and operations, and many other business areas. So, just as in general statistics, there are two categories. So, descriptive and inferential. So, descriptive is used to describe the total group of numbers, while inferential infers relationships from the population of numbers. So, here are some of the applications of statistics in business. Number 1, marketing. So, in general, ang concern na gid ani is to focus on creating and growing customers in a profitable way. Number 2, finance. So, kani siya is based on expectation. So, isa na siya ka-concept sa statistics which is helpful in determining the analyzing risk and quantifying risk. Okay, also in economics, so ginagamit na siya in generally kanang sa supply nga setting, supply and demand, mga na. Operations, so kanit, transforming various resources into product and services in place, quantity, cost, quality, and time as required by customers. So generally, pwede mo gamit ang statistics para ma-assess nimo how was the operation in your company. So for the human resource management or development, so kani siya, statistics is used in evaluating the performance, developing rating system, evolving compensatory reward and training system, and others. So generally, magamit gyud ang statistics aning mga nanga-mention dere. Information systems na gihapon, so in the IT, gagamit na sila og set of commands which is based gihapon on the math or also statistics. So kani data mining, so mura ka gather ani ang data. So pwede po siya magamit sa forecasting. So here you analyze the trend and make predictions about the future. So for example, pwede nimo makita kung kamusta ang imuhang company after 2 years if kanang ma-maintain lugar nimo ang imong services as of this moment or based on your previous nga kanang decisions for the company. So mao ni siya in general, na-mention na po ni siya ganina. So you can also read this on your lecture notes that I sent earlier. So why is statistics important in business? Now, business managers use statistics as an aid to making decisions in the face of uncertainty. So it can be used for making sales projections, financial analysis of capital expenditure projects, constructing profit projections for a new product, setting up production quantities, and making a sampling analysis to determine the quality of a product. So in general, everything in this world is uncertain. But dili na siya reason para sa businessmans or sa mga company owners nga magtaka-taka lang sila take og risk. Now, they use statistics para i-base kung unsa ilahang decisions or unsa pod ang ilahang plan in order to make or to achieve an outcome that is beneficial for them and for their customers. Now, for the important concepts and terminologies in statistics. So the first one is the population sample. So population is the collection of all units from which the data is to be collected. And then the sample is the subset or the portion of the population. And then the element is the unit in the population. And then the frame is the listing of all elements in a population. So generally, kanilang duha ang important, population and sample. So the notations, capital letter N is usually denoted by the population size, and small letter n is the sample size. So another illustration between the relationship of population and sample. So consider a classroom. Then naa kay shares ni siya. So suppose kaning certain classroom siya ato ang population. Kaning mga chairs is the element. Dayon kani siya. Kung kaning tanan share sa classroom population, dayon kailangan nimo magkuha og duha lang ka chair. So let's say this one. So mo na siya ang sample gikan ani nga population nga chair sa specific classroom. Okay. So example, so kaning duha is connected nga example. So suppose your population is all enrolled students of Bukidnon State University for the first semester school year 2020 to 2021. So, pwede ka mamili og sample, okay, sample, gikan ana nga population. So, mag-focus ta sa College of Business. So, sample na siya. So, if the population is all enrolled students of Bukidnon State University for the first semester school year 2020-2021, our sample can be all enrolled students of Bukidnon State University under the College of Business for the first semester school year 2020 to 2021. So, one specific example lang na siya sa sample nga pwede nimo makita ani nga certain population. Okay, another example. So this problem, consider this problem. If your company manufactures 1 million laptops, they might take a sample of say 500 of them to test the quality. Now for this statement, what is our population? So our population here is katong tanan kung pila ka buok ang gi-manufacture nga laptop. So technically 1 million andara from the first statement. And the sample is kaning 500 ka buok nga i-test ang quality nila. So sample is n, small letter n, equals 500. So one observation is that ang sample is mas gamay siya sa population or mas dako permente ang population kaysa sa sample. Okay, another concept, the parameter and statistics. Now, parameter is the characteristic of the population. So when you say parameter, dito ka magtanaw lang sa whole population. So some examples of parameter: population mean or mu, and the population standard deviation or I forgot what this Greek symbol means. Basta kay population standard deviation. So muna siya example sa parameters. So statistic. So muna siya ang measure derived from the sample data. So example ani, sample mean and sample standard deviation S. So ang parameter is sa general, tibuok population, and statistics is a sample kaning base. And since, di ba, ang population luag kaayo, some opted to use the statistic instead or mag-sampling lang sila para i-estimate ang population parameters. Okay. I would like to add here some studies or some researchers will choose to study or obtain data from the sample kaysa sa parameter, in the sense nga kung ang population ang ilahang kuhaan o data, mas gasto siya ug dako kaayo siya nga trabaho para sa ilaha. While kung magkuha lang sila sample or representative gikan ato nga population, pwede man na nila gamiton para i-estimate ang characteristic or ang trait sa whole population. Now, there are instances wherein dili na siya always advisable or no, not advisable. Dili siya always accurate. Like, for example, kaning population sa entire basta kay kanang census kung pila ka buok ang population sa Philippines, dili man siya pwede i-estimate lang nimo i-sampling. So, na mga studies or mga data nga need yun nimo kuhaan og data isa-isa ang entire population. So, kana example is ang census. While some data kay pwede lang siya ma-obtain through sampling or by choosing a specific representative from the population. Okay, so kani, strictly speaking, parameter describes certain aspect of a population. While statistic describes certain aspect of a sample. So another one, statistic refer to research figures and calculation either from the sample or entire population. Okay, so there are two major areas of statistics, the descriptive and the inferential. Now, descriptive is used to summarize and describe important features sa dataset. So, unsaon mo siya pag-describe? So, magamit ka og mga statistical numbers or statistical formulas para maka-describe ka sa data. Example, isolve nimo iyang mean or iyang average. Isolve or pangita nimong mode sa imong data or mao na siya ang most frequent number katong pinakadaghan nagbalik-balik na number or the median, ang middle number, and others. So this one, kani siya nga mga numbers will help the managers monitor business activities and make decisions. So like kanang previously stated no nga uses sa business statistics. So magamit nimo siya para maghimo og better decisions. So often these do not show the big picture. So ratios or numbers representing relationships are used. So example, suppose a professor computes an average grade for one accounting class. If the professor uses the statistic simply to describe the performance of that class, the result is a descriptive statistics of overall performance. So, nag-focus lang siya ani nga accounting class para i-describe ilahang performance. So, descriptive statistics ang gimo ni professor. So, another example. So, imagine you're a regional manager who oversees 15 different car dealerships. So, you keep track of the sales per month, number of vehicles sold, number of salesmen, sales per person, operational cost, delivery times, and other information. So you use the statistical information to look at the trends of the sales and so on. Tapos you understand the relationships between these values and then you make your business decision. So for example, na maligya og motor, then mas nakita ninyo nga mas daghan og sales sa Yamaha lugar nga brand or specifically Mio, dayon permente siya gaka sold out or out of stock. So for the next month, it gives you the idea nga ay okay, dungagan din ako akong dalon nga stock or i-request nga stock sa Mio kay mo siya ang halinon and so nga na lang siya. Okay, so the other major areas in statistics is the inferential or gitawag po siya usayog statistical inference. So it is the process of using samples to draw conclusions in order to reach a broader conclusion or inference about something that has not been directly observed. So it helps the managers draw conclusion based on the limited data. So in here, they predict the future by using statistical strategies like sampling, probability, and models. Another one po di ay, aning inferential statistics, is that mura ka og nag-generalize po para sa whole population gikan sa imong sample. So, inferential statistics na siya. So, read na lang the examples. Naapod na siya sa inyuhang e-module. Kaya, sige. Ito yung first. So, marketing departments, they often use inferential statistics. So, they issue a survey and ask questions about their products. However, it's impossible to survey every individual customer. Kaya di ba sa kadagan nilang customer, maglisod sila og trace ato or pangita ato lang tanan. So, kung sa ilang buhaton, they will determine the appropriate sample size. Tapos, pila ka buok tawo ilang pangutan-on. Ngayon, based sa ilang result ani, ang ilahang statistician will infer the responses for the larger group of customers. So, murag iya na din i-generalize. So, nag-base siya sa specific lang na sample para i-describe ang tibuok na population. So, inferential statistics na siya. Then, kanang descriptive statistics is ang katong specific lang nga sample, ang imuhang data nga na-obtain ato is para lang sa ilahan nimo gi-interpret. So, mo to siya ang descriptive statistics. Okay. Okay, so another one example. A professor might use the average grade from a series of previous accounting classes to estimate or infer the average grade for future accounting class. So in this example, ang data nga gigamit sa professor is the series of previous accounting classes para i-describe ang average grade sa future nga accounting class. So kani gamit niya ang daan nga data para i-predict ang trend sa future nga class. So, inferential gihapon na siya. Okay, another one. Note the surveyors do not call every adult who can vote for president. This would be very expensive. So, muna siyang ginagamit ako ng mga poll survey kung kinsa lang i-vote sa presidential nga position sa election. So, ilang gabuhaton na is they call a representative sample. So, for example lang, 2,000 people, and then use sample statistics para i-estimate nila kung kinsa ang makadaog sa election. So, estimation lang siya. Okay, so, kamo na lang read aning uban. Okay. So, another one is the data. Now, the data, important gid kaayo na siya kaya ba ganina ra ko sige mention og data. So, unsa din siya? Siya ang basic element of the statistical analysis. So, naidua ka type ani, quantitative or some says quantitative, and the qualitative data or some says qualitative data. So, whatever it is, basta kay nanara ang thought. So, ang quantitative data, muna siya ang data nga ma-express or generally expressed in terms of numbers. So, example, age, height, weight, or income. Kaya numbers man sila, therefore, ma-measure sila. While the qualitative data is those data which no numerical measures exist. So, dili nimo siya ma-measure. Or sa dali nga storya, quality siya. Dili nimo siya maihap o masukod, pero ma-describe lang nimo siya. So, example, kind. Example is the gender, brand of cell phones, hair color, skin color, shades sa lipstick, and so on. So, anything that is ma-express nimo in categories or in kind. Okay, so another examples again. So, qualitative data. So, okay. So, the table shows the types of data that describes the freshman education students of Buksu. So, these freshman education students of Buksu can be makakuha ka og duha ka types sa data. So, unsa to nga mga category or kind para makakuha ka qualitative data. So, kung imuhang kuhaon ilang data about sa ilahang religion, civic mindedness, or yung mas lang i-ask environmentalist ba sila o kani positive school spirit nga kuan opinion or kung naba sila ana nga trait. So, qualitative data. So, another term, di ba, traits? Traits. Okay. Quantitative data, so, numerical siya, number. So, gikan ani nga idea, freshman education students of Bukso. So, naa kay 672 ka buok mga students nga gi-survey, of which kani 394 girls, 278 boys, ani nga 672 students. And then 28% sa ilaha din list, tapos 150 students sa ilaha kay nag-accelerate in mathematics nga na. So these things are quantitative data from this nga sample. Okay, now for the variables, so these are the properties or characteristics measured from the person, object, or thing. So this can be represented with letters which take on different values. So say for example, x plus y equals 2. Now for this case, you have two variables, x and y. Now there are certain values nga pwede value ni x o ni y such that ilahang ma-meet ang condition nga kani, kung i-add mo silang duha, the answer will be 2. So sum of it is or are when x is 0, y is 2. Or when x is 1, y is 2. Or when x is 2, y is 0, and so on. So, daghan pa kayo pwede na i-add nimo basta kayo satisfy lang ang condition. Now, another illustration is nangutana ka og kuan. Suppose you are selling food, tapos nangutana ka kung unsa ang feedback sa imong clients, kung moingon ba sila og kuan, say scale sa pagkaon be. Kanang customer service rather sa imuhang kuan, sa imuhang food chain lugar or sa imuhang company. So, pwede ka moingon nga, sige, customer feedback. So, naa sa imong option nga kanang very satisfactory, sa pay uban ana, unsatisfied o very unsatisfied lugar nga responses. So, para aning customer feedback nga variable, mo ni siya ang mga values nga pwede. Pwede siya very satisfactory, satisfactory, unsatisfied, or very unsatisfied sa inyong customer service. Ayan na. So, there are two types of variables, the discrete and the continuous. Now, the discrete is those that can be counted, and since tungod ma-count siya, always assume that the value is a whole number. So, for example, number of students in a class. So, dili ka pwede mo ingon nga there are 49.5 students in a class. Kay wala may tao nga 0.5 imo ang pag-count. So, another example, number of grains in a sack of rice. Okay. So, moingon na sad ta nga, Dobe, ma'am, daghan man kaayo ng grain sa isa ka sako sa rice. So, ihapon gidugar na ko na siya isa-isa. Well, maski pag unsaon ni kuan, huna-huna, at a certain time, kung imo lagi siyang antusan og ihap, sure man ka nga maihap nimo sila tanan. Now, pag ihap nimo, di ba, di man ka moingon niya, 0.5 ni siya nga grade tungod kay pikas siya or putol siya. So, still, counted as 1 gihapon siya. So, discrete gihapon siya. So, kani siya nga illustration, kaning si number of grains in a sack of rice is a case wherein maihap siya, pero it takes time lang yun para maihap nimo siya. Or other terminology nga more mathematical is kani siya. Gitawag siya nga countably infinite. Now, for the continuous variable, so this can have an infinite number of values between 2 points and can be measured using some units of measurement. So it may take some decimal numbers such as examples, height, weight. So kaning continuous variables, since ma-measure man siya, so expect that this may contain some decimal numbers. So mas dali nga pag-describe sa duha, discrete variable can be counted. So dapat whole numbers ni sila. And continuous variable, since ma-measure siya, so meaning mo ni siya mga variable nga ga-contain og decimal numbers. Okay. Now, the scales of measurement. So, measurement is a process of assigning a numerical value to a characteristic of the object being measured. So, these are important because certain calculations can be done with only certain kinds of data. Okay. So, meaning, dili tanan data nga naay number or ga-contain og number is pwede nimo siya ma-calculate. So, first, you need to identify what is its scales of measurement para makabalo ka if pwede ba siya gamitag calculations. Now, the first one is the nominal scale data. So, it is made up of values that are distinguished by name only. So, this is also the weakest or the lowest form of measurement. It does not possess property of order. So examples, brand of cell phones, gender, address, and example pa gyud is zip code. So notice that for the brand of cell phones, di ba, kana siya is usually kana name man gyud na siya, Samsung, iPhone, etc. Tapos for the gender, same gyapon, di ba, mga words lang gyapon or phrases. However, notice that for the address and for the zip code is numbers siya. So for the address, example, consider ka ng barangays, diba? One, diri sa Malaybalay, murag 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 man ang numbering. Then the rest is Barangay Kasisang, Kalasungay, and so on. Now, for the address, notice that Barangay 1, di ba, na siya number 1. So, kana siya, although number 1 siya, dili pasabot nga mas labaw ang taga-Barangay 1 kasi sa taga-Barangay 2. And dili pod pasabot nga ang Barangay 9 is the weakest among all the barangays. And so on. So the same with the zip code, di ba? Here in Bukidnon, we are assigned 8700. Now, dili pasabot ka ika 8,700 priority ta sa ato ang CAD3. Kana siya, ginagamit lang na siya para ma-identify ahadapit ng specific location. So, nominal scale data, distinguish lang nimo siya according sa iyahang pangalan. So, pwede siya mag-contain og numbers at the same time. Now, the other one is the ordinal or the ranking scale. Notice that ordinal means naa siya'y order. So, this level of measurement uses numbers as codes to classify an object or person or characteristics into certain categories. But these categories are ordered or rank. So, example, ani, sa beauty pageant, di ba, naaman na siya winners. The Miss, for example, the Miss Philippines, followed by the first runner-up, second runner-up, and third runner-up. So also, another example, kani, high income, middle income, and low income. So another example pa gyud is kanang honor system sa classroom. So, di ba na first honor, second honor, third honor, and so on. Tapos, one thing lang, ordinal level data lacks a certain difference between the data. So, meaning, dili kayo nimo properly ma-measure ang difference between the data, between the first, the second, and the third. So, also, wala po siya fix or specific nga difference para makaingon ka nga mo na siyang first, second, third. Kaya vary na siya depende sa situation. So, for example, sa beauty pageant, di ba, or the most candidate nga daghan og votes, di ba, usually mo na siya. So, usahay kanang makadaog ang mahimong Miss Universe, for example, out of 5 judges, nakakuha siya og 4 votes. Usahay pod kanang Miss Universe kay nakakuha og 3 votes nga na. So, wala siya specific gyud nga points. Kani pong sa income system, walay specific nga interval kung pila gyud ang amount ka makaingon ta nga high income to siya na belong, middle income siya na belong, or low income to siya na belong. Another one for the honor system, di ba kani pinakadali ra man gid nga pamaagi ani di ba is padako ay og average. Now, pwede nga last year ang first honor kay naka-average og 100%. Karon nga year ang nakakuan lugar na first honor is nakakuha og 90%, ingan ang average. So meaning walay fixed gyud nga criteria para makaingon ka nga katura siya dapat ang mahimong first. Dayon, di ba? It follows na dayon nga. Sa high pod dagko kay interval pananglitan last year ang average sa second dayon kay 98. So 100 man ang first honors nasa difference nga 2. Dayon ang third dayon kay 97.5. So inya na difference no 0.5 and so on. So wala siya fix nga difference between the data. The third one is the interval scale data. So similar siya sa ordinal scale data kay naa siya definite ordering. Pero ang difference nila is that ma-measure nimo ang difference between your data. Okay. Na siya meaningful nga differences. So another one, note that wala siya zero starting point ang interval scale data. Example, temperature. So in our country, di ba, siguro ang pinaka tugnaw nga na record no kay katong sa Malay-Balay pila to 8.1 ba to tong last month na pinaka lowest nga temperature recorded in our country. While for the other countries, usahay moabot pa gid siya og 0 or negative. Nganong ga 0 man og ga negative sila ha? Tungod kay kanang layo sila sa tawag na Ecuador, basta kay nga na. Tapos gasno sa ilaha. Diri sa tua, wa man gyud kay tropical country ta. So tama na gyud ta sa mga positive nga mga values ang ato temperature. So kani na siya exact difference pero wala tay starting point. So another example is the number line. So you are familiar with this kay ginagamit ni siya kanang pag mag-plot mo kay Cartesian plane. So duha na siya ka number line. So usually diba 0 sa tunga, 1, 2, and so on, mga positive numbers. Dayon sa left side is mga negative numbers. So, wala pud ta kabalo, aha ta mag-start diri sa left side, ug wa pud ta kabalo siya mag-end sa right side. So, nga na, wala siya definite starting point. Now, for the ratio scale, so yung property, pare-pareha siya sa interval scale. Kaya pare-pareha man siya, so meaning, naa siya order, ma-measure nimo ang difference between your data. Dayon, ang kalahian lang nila is naa siya starting point. So, di ba, si interval ganina, wala siya starting point. Pero kanina, siya through 0 point or starting point. So, example, kani siya, kwarta ang example no, na itulo ka students sa mo nilang allowances. So, pwede na mo siya ma-arrange into specific increasing order. Kani, 25, 64, and 100. So, notice that si second student has 39 more than the first one. So, nga na siya meaningful difference between the two data. And at the same time, natay starting point, which is 0 pesos. Tungod kay money man ang ato ang gihisgutan diri. So, wala may negative nga kwarta, yes na kanang sa utang. Pero dili man ka moingon nga kung nakay utang nakay negative 100 kay nakay utang 100. So sa mga accounting lang na siya nga mga matters. But in reality, dili ta moingon nga natay negative 100 nga kwarta. So starting point is 0. So another examples is ang height. So the minimum height is dili gid siya exactly 0 no kay even the microscopic particles has a specific measurement balag 0.0001 pa na siya. Another example is the weight. Okay. So sa may starting point anis makaingon pud tag approaches 0 right? Even the air has a certain weight pero gaan na gyud kaayo siya. But still naagya pud siya weight and so on. So question, can we calculate ratios based on this data? Yes, because 0 is the absolute minimum amount of money. So, muning tubag atong kaganina. So, for the nominal, pwede ba nato siya i-compute? So, again, di ba, kato siya is mga distinguished by name. So, dili siya pwede i-compute. For the ordinal, pwede ba siya ma-compute? Logically, dili gyapon siya dili kay siya needed o calculations kay as long as ang imo ramong purpose ani is to arrange it in a specific order. Now, for the interval, pwede ba nimo siya gamitan calculations? Pwede ra. If you want, kay kay makakita man ka og meaningful difference between them. And how about the ratio? Pwede ra ba nimo siya gamitan calculation? Yes, kay makatabang siya sa imuha para mag-interpret kung unsa relationship sa mga data. Okay, so that ends chapter 1 or lesson 1, and worksheets will follow. So for your questions, you may address it on our Facebook group chat. Comment it on the post under this one or on our Google Classroom. Thank you and God bless.